Sylvia, so lovely to have you back at Timeless Textiles with your exhibition Under the Surface. Congratulations. Can you explain Under the Surface title, please?
Yes, absolutely. My focus has always been surface. I've always had an attraction to organic forms, distressed forms. It's what's caught my eye when I'm constantly looking. So the title of Under the Surface is such a broad brush, but it's also looking at the possibilities of stretching surface design and looking at perhaps what's underneath. I mean, you could interpret it in many different ways, but it felt like a really good working title for me.
This is different work that you've produced over the last 15 years, I think. Do you want to just unpack that a bit?
Yes, it's important to me to constantly explore to keep things alive. Sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't, but it is exciting for me to work with new materials and to push the potential of them. So with this work, I've looked at plastic and fabric and trying to marry the two together. I have a very strong um, belief in recycling and reusing materials. So most of the work that's been produced for this is recycled plastics or fabrics that have been manipulated and worked together. And it's a journey. It's always a journey in working with materials and seeing how far you can push them. And I've really enjoyed making these works because it is a total experiment that has been good. So I've sort of
So
let go of the end result and just gone with the process as we all need to do at some point.
it's good to be reminded of that. There is a series in this show of bright yellow that work very well together. It looked like you started on one and then couldn't stop. You kept sort of pushing it a bit. Do you want to talk to those few?
Are they the small little ones? Yes. Well, I have a very muted palette that I usually work with. I mean, I love colour, but I've not really embraced strong colours together and had very, they're usually fairly muted with a hint of colour. And, I love yellow. I love the possibilities of yellow. It's the first colour that you see when you look out into any environment. It's yellow that jumps out. I recently had a trip to Canberra and going down and seeing those fantastic poplars in full bloom. And so yellow came to me, and I had some materials that were yellow. So that's where that came from. It's a fairly organic and probably not has any deep meaning. It's probably just here at the time of what I think is going to work. And so, yeah, it's a splash of colour in this otherwise fairly muted palette, a strong colour, I would say.
How did you keep focused for this show?
I think with any focus, it comes in and out. But once I sort of got out of my own way of overthinking things, of how something might end up looking, and thinking about the end process and what it's going to look like, and sort of got really back into the experimentation of these materials. That was where that kept me focused, and that has a build up. So as you're doing more and you're kind of getting out of your own way and experimenting, you lose track of all the head noise that says that it's not good or whatever. You've got to deal with the next morning when you come back into the studio and see what you've done and think, oh, I don't know. And then you get into that zone again where you might revisit it and pull it apart or do something else or cut it up. But it's in that moment and letting go. So, when it was finished, it's gone for me. You know, it's I mean, it's a joyous thing to share it with people, and I won't say it's always wonderful to get the feedback, but in the end, it's totally about process, and that's where the focus is. That's how I keep focused. But it's work.
You're very well known, Sylvia, for your eye, and you've got a very strong eye of seeing things. Was there something that inspired or triggered you as the basis of this show?
Well, I suppose to keep the focus on uh, experimenting and then having faith in your eye to be able to step back. I mean, there are times when I seek uh, peer advice, you know, but that is fraught with issues as well, because your eye is a personal thing, and getting response, but sometimes you might need that of something that you're not sure about whether it's working or not. And you know, people did come into the studio when I was making this work, and some people really responded very well, and other people, you could see that it was you know, it meant nothing to them, or they couldn't see it, and you have to kind of work with your own self in you know, just separating from that and keeping the focus on the experimenting and trusting your eye, trusting that you know, the development of what you see, even though it might not have broad appeal, it is yours, and it is, you know, what attracts you to why it's working for you. And you know, I'll go back and think, oh, I could have done that a little bit differently or whatever. But at the time, it rings true for me, and it's, yeah, faith in your eye, which is what we have at the end of the day, is your eye, whether you're a maker or you're not. You know, whether you are out in nature and you see something wonderful, it's that trust in the experience and the moment of seeing something.
And is that how you keep yourself so fresh?
Fresh, sometimes it feels a bit stale, and you find yourself reverting back to things that you've done in the past, but that's all right, because maybe they have an integrity and something that's working. But I think to always push a little bit, and that was the joy of making this work, is that I pushed, stepped out, working with materials that are a bit foreign and how they're going to respond together. There were technical issues that I had to overcome, and you know, that's where it happens, I suppose, and where things are kept fresh, and you know, disregarding the responses that people might have to your work, or you know, allowing the head noise to get in the way. You have to kind of get out of that way to kind of keep it flowing and fresh, and take a risk. It's always a risk when you're certainly putting a show together and it's going to be on public view. There's a risk that you're taking with yourself, but then you have to take that risk and then get out of the way, that it's not in your realm to be responsible for how people respond to it. Well, I've just come back from Newcastle, and I do have a show coming up called Kin, which is with a couple of colleagues. It's a mother and a daughter, and I'm with my sister, so hence the name Kin. It's the second show that we've had. So I want to continue experimenting with some of the materials that I've used. There's a couple of pieces that I've found in a secondhand place, and they're perspex, and they're kind of exciting for me. I'm sort of looking at the potential of what I'm going to do with it, and so I'm, you know, these images are coming through my head, but now I need to go down and start experimenting. And there's a little bit of nervousness, you know, you think, oh, because once you start, but yeah, once I'm on my way, once I'm there, it'll start to flow.
And what do you do when you've picked up something very excitedly, thinking, I'm going to work into this, and it just doesn't work?
You let it go. I pull it apart often. Not many things that I throw out completely. Uh, I'll pull it apart and I'll put it into some box that I'm going to revisit at some point that will, come up, and I'll see that it's something that I can use again. But yeah, no, it's very easy for me to let go of, things that I don't think are working. I've got probably about 10 pieces downstairs from the show with you under the surface that weren't going to work.
You've been working in textiles for 30 to 40 years. How do you think textiles is being received now?
Oh, it's very exciting, I think. In the last few years, I've seen a huge uptake into the hallowed houses of national and state galleries, really embracing textiles as a high-end art form now. Not that it was always recognised, but not to the level it is now. So we've recently in Brisbane had the Asia Pacific Triennial, which is a 3-year event that comes to Brisbane, and it is huge. It's a very, very big event. And each year I see an increase in the textile component of the exhibition. And I would say that this recent one was at least 40%, which is, that is amazing from where I sit, going back 15 years ago. Where you would see the token textile work in there, and it would always be really exciting to see. But to go in there now and see all these wonderful contemporary artists, young, mid-career, end-of-career artists, all coming together and putting work in, it's very exciting.
Yes, it's wonderful to see, isn't it, as we wander around exhibitions, to see the quality of work and the application of fibre art techniques into quite surprising places. I'm with you. I think it's wonderful. It's very exciting.
Absolutely. And now I think how that translates into sales and people sort of investing in textile art as opposed to a painting, which, might, have a very healthy price tag next to it. The investment into textile work, I think it's only going to get better, but it's still an education of how would you look after something like this? How would you, does it carry the same weight as a painting in value? And it's about education. So I think the more people like yourself have promoted textile art and taken it to the level that you have can only be a great thing. And accessible to a lot of women too that have been makers for a long time have never really got the recognition for the extraordinary work that they do, as opposed to somebody that is, has the ability to be a technically fine artist. When you look at any beautifully made quilt or weaving, that sometimes it just isn't given the weight that it deserves. Just to encourage people to keep out there making and to not get caught up in your head about that it's not good to be precious. Hold your desire to make in a precious way, because it's more than ever we need to be makers and teach our grandchildren to be makers and lead by example, from parents to grandparents to aunts and uncles. Yeah,
And that's an
Okay.
art form that you have been able to do, Sylvia Watt. I'm so grateful that you're once again exhibiting at Timeless Textiles. It's such a privilege to have you as part of Timeless Textiles. So thank you.
Oh, and thank you, Anne, and thank you so much for the opportunity. I truly enjoyed my time in Newcastle and being around all the makers, and what a community. And thank you again, Anne, for the wonderful, wonderful work that you do in promoting textile art. It's really something.